This is going to be one of those takes that no one's really going to want to hear, but we got to talk about it. Just so we're on the same page, let's talk about how TV shows are funded. They're funded through contracts with the network. They're paid to make the product. For example, AEW is paid $40 million a year right now by Warner Discovery to make their whole suite of Dynamite, Collision, and Rampage. And now that we're on the same page here, let's get to the part that you're not going to like. You as a professional wrestling fan in an arena, you're a background extra. You're set dressing, and that's it. Television shows aren't making money because of their live studio audience, and neither is professional wrestling. Yes, it offsets the production cost of having those events, but ultimately, what is driving the money is the television contract. That's why these TV rights deals that are currently going on for WWE and AEW are huge news right now. Let me give you a real-world wrestling example of this. TNA has been going on for what, 20 years at this point? You have to remember that TNA at a point was, their studio show was at Universal Studios, the theme park in Florida, and the tickets were free, like $0. You needed AC, you needed to get out of the hot Florida sun for a bit, go watch TNA taping. And they've been around for forever. And I was like a lot of you, and I said, no, that can't be true. Us fans, we are very, very important to the live experience. And yes, you bring the vibes, you bring the energy, and that's what makes pro wrestling good. Remember during the pandemic when we had the Thunderdome and everybody had the big screens on there? Wasn't the same. So yes, you are a big part of the show for bringing the energy. But as we've seen with recent WWE programming, that can be phoned in. They've already admitted that they did do that with Dom Mysterio's booze in some markets, not all. And so we're really a non sequitur when it comes to pro wrestling. Given my time in production, this was also shown to me when I was working in OVW as the television director. I worked hand in hand with Al Snow, who was our lead producer, also with Jim Cornette and Doug Williams. Shout out Doug Williams. So just joining the production side of professional wrestling, I learned that they face the hard cam because that's where more people are. Simple enough, makes sense. You may have a couple thousand people in an arena, but you have hundreds of thousands watching at home. So your television product is the main focus of what's going on. That's why my back is to the crowd when I cut promos and I'm cutting them to the hard cam. If it was about the live studio audience, I would gesture around to the live studio audience and face the sea of people behind me. Of course, it would be great to have a full house for every single show. It helps the performers feed off the energy better, helps offset the cost of production for that show, but it's not the most important thing to them. Because as long as you can fill up one side and shoot that direction, it doesn't fundamentally matter. Think about a real television show like Law & Order. You're facing the camera towards the action that's happening, not behind where production is. That doesn't make a lot of sense. You can shoot that way and make the show look filled, look great on television, and that's all that really matters, because when you're doing the television rights negotiations, it needs to look full. And if you can make it look full with 1,000 people, 3,000, 5,000 people, or 12,000 people, if you shoot it correctly, it doesn't fundamentally matter. And with AEW being a 5-year-old startup company, yeah, they need to get that money. And where that money is going to come from is television rights. The television rights deal for AEW is said to be over $100 million a year per year for this next set of television negotiation rights. We'll see what happens ultimately with that, but if AEW goes from making $40 million a year to making $60 million a year and changes nothing, that's a win. But ultimately, I do think this is a booking issue with Tony Khan, not booking as the storylines. I'm talking about booking venues. Tony Khan is running 3 shows in a week in the same market. We used to call that killing the town, but I don't see why he does this. It's not something WWE does. Typically, if they run a same market, maybe it's just a Friday night SmackDown and then into the big pay-per-view, but there's no need to run the exact same market 3 times in a week. Now, I understand that's probably a cost savings thing, but if you want a bigger house, don't run the same place 3 weeks in a row. I have a life. I can only probably go to 1 professional wrestling show a week. And if you're running a pay-per-view in my town, I'm not going to TV 2 other days in the week. It's quite simple. But who's ever in charge of scheduling decided, let's run this town 3 days out of the 7 days in a week. I don't think that's the greatest idea. That's my 2 cents. Hey folks, remember, pro wrestling scripted. Your life isn't. Go do something great today. We'll see you next time. Hey, subscribe.